Yeah, well, you're right about that. When it depends on how you word it, because it is true when labor leads, the people succeed. So
you mean fruit seeds, mango
yeah,
seeds,
exactly. Because
ackee
you,
seeds.
so they are correct. But I looked over that information, and again, what came to mind is I remember years ago I was talking to a friend of mine who was very close to a minister of tourism under the said Barbados Labour Party, and he called me because he was so upset with a particular meeting that they had in regards to the tourism numbers. And he told me, listen, in the meeting, um, this gentleman pulled a figure, and he turned to him and asked him where he got that figure from. He said, I just pulled it out the sky, and that's what we're going to use. So, when I read this, and I think they had inflated the arrival rate, to about 2 million that year. And he said we were so far from that 2 million mark. It wasn't crazy. But when I read this, I recognized that this was, again, a political stunt, um, right off the heels of the BLP's convention. Um, and it's always this playing to the crowd to make it look like things are good. Remember, we just had that minister that said, we're constantly being told that things are going well in Barbados, but we know that things aren't well. And this is another political stunt to, kind of hype up the Barbados Labour Party. But when you do the groundwork and you drive around Barbados, you drive through the communities in Barbados, you see that wide cross section of young men that are on the block. You can't come with those type of numbers to make it look like employment is on some type of level. We know that employment in Barbados on many levels um, is very, very high.
Yes.
Okay, including the uh, individuals who are leaving both secondary and tertiary level institutions who cannot find gainful employment. And then we have the guys on the block themselves. And then we have those individuals who've left secondary school, who did not leave school with any great measure of certification, that are struggling right now to find some level of employment. So I don't think that the central bank governor has done his homework. I don't think there's been enough census being taken to determine um, the level of unemployment in Barbados. I think this is just a number that was pulled that looked significant enough, but still effective enough to show that there's some type of improvement in the area. But I don't agree with those numbers, because what we are seeing in Barbados, and the fact that right now we have this open border where so many people are coming in, you can that can never be an accurate assessment of what unemployment in Barbados is like at this moment. So again, Barbadians must not be led astray, and they must not be fooled by these individuals that are number selective in favor of the Barbados Labour Party, to make it look like we have, some measure of balance. We don't have that measure of balance in the island right now.
Yeah, sure.
Right. Well, I can tell you, if I would add this in from looking at what I have seen, I know that the Barbados Labour Party, they are aware of the fact that employers in Barbados are very selective right now, because Barbados has gone very high in rapidly. Okay. And I know that the state of the gang culture, as well as the drug usage among our young people, has played a significant role in the hiring of our young men and women. Okay, I know that for a fact, and this is one of the areas that this current administration has not paid attention to, because between 2019 to 2025, unemployment among our young people has grown exponentially, and they know that. They know that in terms of what is happening here in Barbados right now with the, they brag that we have 6 major hotels that are being built, but that suggests only a certain type of job offer. If you do not have certification, and if you do not have, some level of experience, and they're not going to employ you if you're going to come to an interview. Your fingers are black, your lips are black, you're obviously a heavy drug user, and people see that there's some level of, culture regarding either drugs or gangs or any of that nature. So you force employers now to be very selective when it comes to our young people, and this is like, over the last 5 or so years where the culture increased itself, and there was nothing done to really stop it. So again, and I know this for a fact, I'll say it here on the show. You also have to look at the state of the amount of young men that are coming out of secondary schools without certification. Many of them that are being expelled from school. And let me go back to the recent arrests where there were 3 young men around the ages of 16 that had no fixed place of abode. Okay, so that means at some point in time, 3 years prior to that, they would have been in the school system. So evidently something was going on within that 3-year period of time that their parents would have probably put them out of the home because of their involvement in, a gang or involved in drugs and the changes in their behavior. So there are many parameters that have affected the increase in the unemployment rate, which this administration is not willing to address. And they have not addressed many things here in the island, from the state of sickness. There are many people in Barbados, and I don't mean elderly people, I mean young people who have suffered adverse side effects from taking the vaccine, who can't work. I know that for a fact. And these are individuals at, what we would call workable age, in their prime. But they're being seriously affected after taking the vaccine. And this government has not addressed any of those, socioeconomic or health elements here in the island. They're just going along trying to make everybody believe that everything is good, and everything isn't good. So there are several areas that I know for sure that the central bank governor, they did not pay attention to. This is just one of those situations where, oh yeah, we're good at what we do. We work with numbers, we like numbers, and the numbers always add up. So, we pick one that sits well in between bad and good, and we push it off as good. And this is exactly what is happening with this comment coming from the central bank governor. There's a video that was circulated with a gentleman who was showing a housing project from the NHC in St. George, where he mentioned that there were Indians, they were all Indians working on that project. Okay, now this is something that is not uncommon to this administration. You go back to 2007 with what happened at Kensington Oval, and Malik outlined that in his song so beautifully. The 14 Indians that were working on Kensington that had no work permit, they had no contract to work there, but they were there working. And so these are things that shows you that the government understands, if we want to get our projects done, we can't trust Barbadians to do the project.
I would love
Okay,
to. I would love to find out, have a survey that shows us how many, in the construction boom that we're having, how many Barbadians as opposed to foreign labor is being currently employed,
good
and
question.
also I would like to know, when you come to Barbados, you have to get to work. You have to get a work permit. I would assume that those firms who are, and businesses are organizing the employment, they are petitioning government for these work permits for these foreign
Exactly. Well,
numbers. So we would like to
Yeah,
know how many are, yes,
yeah,
because
well,
they're not going to the office themselves. Certainly,
exactly,
they're not
exactly.
applying for themselves. So that's clear.
yeah.
So who's processing the documentation on their behalf? Uh, it was so upsetting today. I drove through Whole Town, and there's a massive hotel being built there, where Discovery Bay Inn used to be. And what was sickening? The the guys that are holding the signs for the imported workers to cross our Bajans. So they're the ones holding the sign that says stop or go, while the the guys who have been brought in, the imported labor, they're crossing the street. So we have our Bajans making sure they're safe. And it's gotten to the place where the level of disrespect that this administration has shown for Barbadians, our people have to begin to wake up and realize, from sewage water in Trinity in St. Sewage water in St. Lucie, to employment disrespect, to the hiding, the corruption, to Mr. Sutherland just resigning on a dime just like that. But all this information that is being leaked to the public right now, to the central bank governor trying to make it look as though things are, going well. They're not as good as we would like, but it's still manageable. All of these are things that, the Barbadian public needs to wake up and realize you're being hoodwinked, you're being lied to. And it's only a matter of time before, all of these things initially unfold. I can tell you, I drive through areas here in St. Peter, and I can tell you the unemployment is high. When youngsters are under a shed at 9 o'clock, you pass there at 12, they're still there.
I
3,
agree.
they're still there. Come on, how are you getting these numbers? What census did you have to determine that this is the rate, the percentage of unemployment or employment in the island right now? I mean, what have you done? And it's not just in one area, it's in multiple areas, even here in St. Peter. So I really don't know what the central bank governor is talking about and where he's getting his numbers from.
Yeah.
You mean me? Apostle, yes.
Yeah. Well, again, what Mr. Wood is clearly outlining in simple terms is that the necessary assessment has not been done in order for the central bank governor to come up with these numbers. And that's what he's saying, plain and simple.
Correct.
The homework has not been done. So how are you at the point after 9 months of 2025 that you can come with this with these numbers after it is plainly shown that you have not done the necessary uh, investigation to come up with a credible level? This has to be something that they're just particularly pulling out of the sky. So this spells danger for Barbados because, going forward into the next general election, when it actually comes out or when some other independent body does an investigation in regards to the unemployment in Barbados, and it's shown that the central bank governor, his his document and his presentation is so far from reality, then who are we going to be led to believe? So I think the time has come for these type of shenanigans to stop being levied on the people of Barbados and get to the truth of what is really going on. This country is filled with Jamaicans, it's filled with people from St. Vincent, from Guyana, It's full of Chinese right now. It's full of Indians. It's full of people from Puerto Rico. You know, it's Hispanics. I mean,
Colombia.
it's pretty much overly
South
populated. You look at all of the
Yes.
projects going on in Christchurch. They're hardly Bajans working on those projects. You know, you go down here in St. James, you'll see the amount of imported labor that's coming in because the people who are doing these projects in Barbados, and Mr. Bob knows about, he knows very well about the Paintree project there in 6 Minutes. When you look at the ratio of Barbadian workers versus the imported labor, you can see that there's a vast difference. Okay, and right now I can tell you, and I spoke to a gentleman today, and he particularly told me that these major projects are only employing, um, you know, Barbadian tradesmen if their credibility is above board and if they have already worked with projects exceeding a certain amount of money. So, you know, it's the whole issue here in Barbados of unemployment has gone beyond just looking at youth and you know, our young men and young women, but we have to look at unemployment right across the board and how employment now is being drafted now by, you know, the mega industry entities that are coming to Barbados that are involved in these high level and you know, high financial uh, levels here in the island, including the construction of mega projects like we have the Paintree project. You're not going to get with those individuals. They're not just going to, you know, select any and every person to come. They're not just going to select any and every person to be a laborer because they have certain, you know, standards to maintain and so on and so forth. And it is critical right now that we have other independent bodies that would say, okay, well, this is the number that has been presented to us by the central bank. We're going to do a private investigation into this. We're going to do a census. We're going to do, you know, our homework, and then we'll come back to you by the end of December and give you, you know, what our findings are. But I can tell you, I know that the numbers presented by the current central bank governor, those numbers are totally off, completely off.
How we arrives at his sample, you know, as the you know, who's in his market, then the labor market for him, you know.
Well, you know, listen carefully to what he said just now, and if you're looking at you know, a 6.2% already, 10% of 283,000 is 28,300. You know, just off the top of my head. So if you're looking at 6%, that is close to 18,000 plus persons that are said to be unemployed. 70,000 is a big number.
Yeah. And that's it. And that's what Mr. Anthony Wood is questioning it, the claim of record low unemployment.
Right.
He wants to see how large and how representative that sample actually was that was used, you see? And that I believe that is the question there.
You know, I want to add to this. You know, every year we have 22 government secondary schools. The secondary schools, and if we guesstimate that from each school every year, let's say 100 children are leaving secondary school from each of those 22 schools, that's already 2,200. So, and all of them are not going to be going into the workforce right away. So,
yeah, you're not going to pay any taxes. Any of you have any thoughts on that, or we want to take it up on Sunday?
Go ahead, Pastor. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I actually don't really know how to speak to something that is so, in my opinion, shady. You know, I mean, if you're offering something, you're offering something, and you really, with all of the other elements that they have in place already, that's pretty much bleeding Barbadians and, you know, sucking, you know, everything out of Barbados. It's this, again, this constant introduction of some way to extrapolate monies from Barbadians who are already leaning in their finances where this government is concerned. I don't know the last time someone said it's over what, 22 different taxes that are levied on Barbadians right now. Could be a little bit more than that. But, you know, my honest opinion is that something has to be done to assist Barbadians now rather than find more ways to take more money from them. So, you know, this is crazy, absolutely crazy. And for us as Barbadians to be at this point in our development as a nation, it tells us that something is definitely wrong with the type of systemic government that we have in place at the moment. And that's basically all I have to say about that.